Hey everyone, so today I wanted to make a tutorial / mod showcase for one of my favorite Rimworld mods, Zombieland by Brrainz. For those of you who may not be familiar with this modder, he's also responsible for the mod Harmony, which a huge majority of modded players also use and countless other mods rely on. Basically, the guy's a genius. I'll link his Patreon in the video description instead of mine so you can send him some love for all his contributions to the game if you're so inclined. So Zombieland is a mod that adds zombies to your world. If a pawn gets bitten, they can become infected, and after a few days they will turn into a zombie themselves. Once they're a zombie, they're essentially dead in the eyes of your colony. You can no longer control them and they will attack anyone who is around. Don't worry though, you can also craft a serum that heals zombie infections if you stockpile enough resources to do so. I'll go over how to do that as well as show you guys some cool stuff this mod adds and all the ways you can manipulate your gameplay with the mod settings. Let's get into it. So first, some zombie basics. You cannot actually click and select zombies. They aren't like raiders or manhunting animals. You can hover over them and see in the bottom corner their original name and title, but you cannot actually click them. This makes the mod run a lot smoother, and because of this, you can have hundreds of zombies on your map without any lag. Zombies also have a radius around them. I'm not sure exactly how many tiles it is that they can sense you in. They aren't like your typical manhunting animal where they'll make a beeline for your pawn from across the map. If you give them a wide enough berth, they'll just ignore you completely. But if you are close to them, they will become agitated and try to get to you. They also move a lot faster when agitated. They also slowly recover from injuries if you don't finish them off when fighting them, so it's not wise to leave an injured zombie alive. They will switch to kind of crawling towards you when severely injured, but they can still bite your legs and infect you. When zombies do die, their bodies vanish after a few in-game hours. If you can get to their body in time though, any pawns assigned to doctor work will be able to harvest zombie extract from their corpse. These extracts are essential to craft the serum that stops zombie infections. We'll talk more about that a little later. Also, when they die, there is a small chance that they will drop an apparel item that they were wearing. This can be a nice little bonus as some of the zombies come in wearing some cool stuff. This is compatible with any apparel mod you might be using as well. Now, the amount of zombies you have on your map and what triggers them and how they behave, all of that is totally dependent on the mod settings. The default setting is that zombies will appear any time of day, but you can set it so that they only come out when it's dark or only get triggered as events. You can also control where they spawn from. They can spawn in soft ground like swamp areas, mud, or even occasionally regular dirt, or they can wander in from the edge of the map. Their movement style is also important. It defaults to smart, which means that eventually zombies will find your base and focus on it. You can also choose if there are any biomes you do not want them to spawn in. Now, zombies default to attack only human-like creatures, but this does include pawns from enemy factions, as well as manhunting animals for some reason, so this setting kind of has zombies work as an extra layer of defense for your base against raids and animal packs. You can change it so that they attack all creatures or only your colonists, if you want. The default settings are also that enemies will go out of their way to attack zombies. This means that when raiders enter your map, rather than try to avoid the zombies and get to your base, they will sprint straight towards the nearest zombie and engage with them. This will make it so that you have to deal with very few raids while zombies are on your map. I kind of think it makes a little more sense to turn this off. Enemies should avoid zombies the same way colonists do. Zombies will also typically only destroy doors they see you walk through, but leave walls and other structures alone. You can tweak that as well. Here is where you can adjust that radius of awareness I mentioned before. Basically, how close can you get to a zombie before it notices you and becomes agitated. If their senses are elevated, they can sense you from much further away. When zombies get in large groups, they will also begin to do something called rage, which looks like this. Raging zombies are harder to kill and they move faster than regular zombies. You can scale their rage level here. If you move it down to very low, it means that the group has to become extra large before the rage will trigger. For zombie health, if you prefer that they don't recover from injuries, or even if you want to make them super easy to kill, you can set that up here. Now, let's look at these special zombie types. The default is that normal zombies, as I've described so far, will make up 92% of the zombies that spawn on your map. Depending on what type of playthrough you're doing, you may want to increase the percentages of some of these special zombies, or even decrease them to 0. Let's look at them one by one. Suicide bomber zombies are exactly what they sound like. They will make a beeline for your base and then blow themselves up when they reach a wall. Every time I get one of these, I think of that scene in the Two Towers at Helm's Deep when that Uruk-hai is running straight into the drain with a torch to light that bomb, and Aragorn is yelling in Elvish at Legolas to bring him down before he gets there. I'm not sure why, but that is one of my all-time favorite scenes, and I think of it every time I see one of these. Toxic splasher zombies leave like a puddle of toxic waste when they die. It will give your colonists toxic buildup if they walk in it, and that seems like not a big deal, whatever, but I've actually lost colonists to this because it has a really fast and intense onset, and their move speed is slower through it, so the toxicity has longer to build up while they kind of trudge across it. Tanky operator zombies are much harder to kill than the regular zombies. They're wearing full armor and carrying like a riot shield. You have to hit them enough times to destroy their shield, helmet, and armor before you can finally do any damage to them. Often, a lot of normal zombies will like group up and trail behind the tank zombies, because when the tank zombies get to your, wall or door, they'll smash their way through, and then the other zombies will like pour into your base. Mining zombies are wearing hard hats, which is hilarious to me, and they act like stupid sappers, basically. So meaning they can mine into your base, but unlike sappers, they will not necessarily make smart decisions about where to mine. Sometimes they'll just mine a random mountain across the map from where you are. So keep an eye on them, but I haven't had issues with this. Electrifying zombies cannot bite. They can still like scratch and bruise you, but they can't infect you. So you're free to get like close and beat them up, but they have an electric field that will interfere with turrets and protect them from ranged fire. So you can see right here that my turrets are completely ignoring them. Albino zombies might be my favorite. They won't attack you, but they can open doors, and they will sabotage things in your base, such as like flicking switches on air conditioners. They will also periodically let out a piercing shriek, which will temporarily stun every colonist in earshot and make them all throw up. However, they're very easy to kill. It's like a one-punch situation. Dark Slimer zombies leave a trail of sticky black slime everywhere they go. Move speed is insanely slow through this slime, so it's definitely a liability to have a bunch on your map because it can trip you up easily if you're being chased by anything. It's also super ugly, and it takes forever to clean up. Just because of that, I often set this one to 0% because I just don't want to deal with the cleaning. Healer zombies are these bright blue ones, and they rapidly heal any injured zombies in their immediate vicinity. If you see one of these in like a horde that you're about to fight, try to take them out first. So those are the special zombie types. As I said, it might make sense to adjust some of these percentages based on what sort of playthrough you're doing. Like once I did a medieval playthrough with zombies, so I turned off the ones that look too high tech, like the suicide bomber, the miner, and the tanky operator. So down here are some of the most important settings in the game that you should take a look at, even if you want to leave everything else default. You can adjust the grace period your colonists get after landing before zombies spawn. The default's 3 days, and you can also set the max amount of zombies on the map. I bring this down to 250 when I play because I'm afraid of maybe getting lag. I've never experienced any with this mod, so for all I know, my computer could easily handle 500. Not sure. This slider also basically tells the game how many zombies to spawn. Higher means it will spawn more zombies relative to the number of colonists you have. I do find that it's more fun to adjust this up a bit. On the default setting, you might only get a few zombies to spawn per colonist. Now, dynamic threat level is probably the most impactful setting. If dynamic threat level is turned on, zombies will not be on your map 24/7. The appearance of zombies on your map will be controlled by a value called a threat level. In-game, you'll be able to hover over the threat level here on the right and see a forecast for the upcoming days. When the threat level is 0, every zombie on the map will die. This allows you to plan ahead for when you need to leave your base and go do work elsewhere on the map. You can adjust the curve settings so that the threat levels change more suddenly or sporadically, and you can also turn them off dying during 0% threat, in which case no zombies would die, but they just wouldn't spawn when the threat was 0. If you turn off dynamic threat level, zombies will be able to exist on your map 24/7, and you will not have any periods of time when your map is clear. I personally really like the dynamic threat level. For one, I feel like it'd be very far removed from vanilla Rimworld without it, since every waking moment would be spent fighting zombies, and you'd have little opportunity to expand your base infrastructure. But also because without it, any raid you get always has to contend with zombies before reaching you. With dynamic threat level on, there's a chance you'll be raided during a 0% threat level and have to actually face the raiders without zombies as a line of defense. So I actually feel like the dynamic level makes it a little bit more balanced. Occasionally you will get a zombie event like this. It's a bit scary. The sound is scary. And you can adjust its size here. You can mess with zombie speed. I leave them default. The X here refers to the default pawn speed. And you can also control the damage that they do. And following that, how many zombies a pawn can take in melee. These sliders might seem a little confusing, so they put a little example down here. With the default setting, a pawn with a 10 in melee has a 50% chance of beating one zombie without getting bitten once. If 2 zombies attack a pawn with 10 melee, he might beat them, but he basically has a 0% chance of escaping them unbitten. If you want zombies to be easier to fight in melee without getting bitten, you would adjust this slider up. Now, I definitely recommend cranking up this turret slider if you plan on using turrets at all. It reduces the amount of steel needed to rearm them, because they will constantly be going off with zombies around. You will rapidly run out of steel if you do not adjust this. Of course, one technique that I also do in addition to moving this slider to minimize rearming is to only have turrets within your outermost perimeter wall. This way, they will only go off when zombies breach your walls rather than constantly. Ideally, you'll definitely want a few layers to fall back behind if the outer ones are breached. In this case, I have turrets behind my first one, and then kind of like a fire quarter behind my second wall. And then finally, in the interior of the base, I have more turrets. Now, to finally get to zombie infections and how to deal with them. By default, there is a 50% chance that a zombie bite will become infected, and of course you can adjust that in the settings. You also will not know if it's infected for 8 hours after the bite. Initially, the bite will show up just like anything else in the health tab in white text. If it becomes infected, you enter the second phase, which only lasts 1 day, and it will show up orange in the health tab. During this phase, your pawn will act normal and can be treated by a zombie serum to heal the infection. How do you acquire zombie serum, you ask? I mentioned earlier that when a zombie dies in the hours before their body despawns, your colony doctors can approach them and harvest zombie extract from their body. This zombie extract can be combined with industrial medicine and refined into zombie serum at a drug lab. 100 vials of zombie extract will produce a 100% serum, meaning that that serum has a 100% chance of healing 1 infected bite. Note that if your colonist has multiple infected bites, they need a serum to treat every single one. If you don't have enough extract, say only 50 vials, you could craft a 50% serum. This would only have a 50% chance of successfully treating the bite though. Using a zombie serum is an operation just like administering any other medicinal drug in the game. Now, the default amount of extract per zombie I think is either only 1 or 2 vials, which means you would need to extract from 100 zombies before you have enough extract to heal 1 infected zombie bite. I find that to be a bit steep, so I adjust this to the max, which means zombies should drop 4 vials. Now you only need 25 zombies to create 100% serum, which is much more manageable. You can also stop an infection by amputating the infected body part. If you're playing a tribal start, I recommend lowering the chance of infection below 50% because you will not have industrial medicine to craft the serums with, so amputation will be your only recourse if a bite does get infected. So after that orange phase, the infection will advance into the red phase in the health tab. In the settings, it says that the infection can no longer be cured during this phase, but I've not found that to be true. I've found that you can still treat it with a serum, and the red phase lasts about 6 days by default. During this time, your colonists will not need to eat or sleep. You'll notice that all of their meters remain constant at about 50% in their needs tab. We can see his recreation going up and down, but it's always resetting at 50. This means that they can conceivably be super productive up until they transform into a zombie. So you could even push your luck and wait until the last minute to cure them to try and get as much work out of the zombie infection as possible. I also want to note that all dead pawns will turn into a zombie 8 hours after death, regardless of if they were infected by a bite when they died or not. If you bury them as a corpse, they will claw their way out a few hours later as a zombie. The only way to stop this is to remove their head immediately after they die. This is called double tapping, and it has a really gross sound effect. One other thing you should make sure to change is the amount of hours until a zombie corpse disappears. 1 hour is not enough time to harvest zombie extract from more than like 1 or 2 zombies if you're standing right next to them, so I recommend upping this to like 4 or 6 hours. And finally, in the settings, you can tweak a few fun things down here, whether zombies bleed, whether they have a visible health bar. If you want to see how many zombies are on your map at a given time, it would show up in the little on the right-hand side with the notifications. And if you want packaged survival meals to appear as Twinkies. So that's it for the settings, but in-game, you'll notice a few extra buttons when you have a colonist selected. This first one toggles their automatic avoidance of zombies on and off. Unfortunately, this will not stop them from doing assigned work tasks right next to zombies if you don't restrict their area, but it will change their pathing to avoid zombies where possible. This button with the vial toggles automatic extract harvesting on and off. Pawns assigned to the doctor work type with this toggled on will automatically harvest extract from nearby zombie corpses. If you turn it off, they'll only do it if you make them using right click. And then this last button that looks like a brain is whether or not they will automatically decapitate any corpses they see to prevent them from becoming zombies after death. That basically covers all of the essentials for how to use this mod. I highly, highly recommend it. It might force you to get outside of your comfort zone with your usual base design, or lean heavier into making good armor to defend against bites, or into crafting so you always have a backup supply of serum available. It makes large raids more entertaining, and it just adds a really cool layer of threat to the game. It's especially fun to combine with any mods that add more structures to your map, such as Rim Cities, which is also an incredible mod if you have not used it. So let me know down in the comments if you have used Zombieland, and if so, what you think of it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.